Hello there, my name is Tuppence. Do you remember these moulds from last week? I used this multi-size mould to create a resin bezel. Then I used a tulip from this mould and created an earring and pendant set. Well, I found another one, another multi-mould. It's a little bit different in size, but it's the same principle. You can create multi-size rings using the same mould. So I'm going to use this to create a wreath, a springtime wreath, and I'm going to combine it with these flowers. I've got quite a few to choose from. But first I'm going to go ahead and make the rings. I'm going to make 2 different size rings and then they can harden up. I'll make the flowers afterwards and then they'll still be a little bit soft when I demold them and I can shape them around the rings. But first I need to get some gloves on and then I can go ahead and mix up my resin. Alright, I put my mould onto my G3 tray because I'm going to be using that, and I've got a cup to mix my resin in. I think I'm going to do 2 ounces. I'm using Mould resin for this. I'm really not sure how much this is going to take, and I want to do the outer ring and I think maybe the 3rd ring in, although I don't know whether to do this one or not. Obviously that would take up a little bit more resin. But no, I think I'll stick with what I wanted to do, which is the outer ring and the 3rd ring in. So I'm going to use part B first. I want 1 ounce of that. This is the slightly more fluid part of the resin, so that goes in the bottom. And then you can pour part A on top, and that will start the mixing process as it pours through the resin to settle at the bottom of the cup. And I also want 1 ounce of that as well. Then I need to combine these by mixing it really slowly for about 4 minutes. I'm going to mix it by hand because there's so little in here. Alright, that is mixed up now. I'm going to add some mica powder. This is from Mould as well, and it's a lovely glittery gold colour. So I'm going to put a good spoonful in there. Let's see if that is enough. Just get that mixed in. So I want this to be pretty opaque, but I also want it to be a fairly neutral colour because most of it is going to be hidden by the flowers that I put on top of it anyway. Right, I think I need a little bit more. Mix that in as well. That's all mixed and I let it sit for a couple of minutes to let any of the bubbles degas. And now I can fill up this outer ring. So it's pretty deep, but it's not very wide, so I don't really know how much it's going to take. I'll just try and bring it almost level with the top because I am going to be moving this tray afterwards, so I'll fill it up once I've got it in position. There we go, almost there. Got a little drip, clean that up. And it's not too bad. Let's see how much that took up. Okay, so I've got about half an ounce left in here, so that's over 1.5 ounces for this outer ring on its own, and it's not even filled up yet. So I think I'm going to do this 3rd ring in here and we'll see if I've got enough, which I'm pretty sure I don't have. Again, I'm not going to fill this all the way to the top anyway because I do want to move it, but yeah, I definitely don't have enough. So just for those 2 rings, that's over 2 ounces in there. Probably should have done about 2.5 ounces. But for now, I'm going to move this over to the other side. I'm going to mix up a little bit more resin and fill these up. I'm not going to show you that because you've already seen me mix the resin anyway. And yeah, so the next time you'll see these, they should be ready for demold. Okay, I can take these out of the mould now. So they are still a little bit soft and bendy. They're going to continue to harden up and carry on curing once I set these to the side. Just get them out of the mould first, and that is looking great. You can see just how bendy it is. Got a lovely scalloped edge. I can't see any bubbles, so I'm really happy with that. We get this other one out as well. Yeah, that's bendy too, so there we go. Just lay that flat, and that one is looking great too. I do have one very small bubble there, but I'm going to be covering that up anyway, so I'm not going to worry. Now I could push that up to the top and I could just fill that bottom part, or I can put it right in the middle and then just work my way around the outside with the flowers. Either way, they've got to harden up, so I'm going to leave them in place and let that cure. So while the rings are curing, I'm going to work on the flowers. I'm going to use this lovely cluster, some leaves, and I'm going to be colouring it with these mica powders. I'm going to put that directly onto the mould, and then I will backfill it with a white resin. And hopefully I should get a nice subtle look. This cluster of flowers is pretty mixed. There's tulips, etc. But I think pink will cope with most of them, as the rest of the flowers appear to be roses. So I've got a rose pink and coral for the flowers. And these are micas from Arteza. And for the leaves, I've got spring green and lettuce green, also from Arteza. I'm using a makeup brush to add the powder into the mould. I'm going to use a pretty small one, and I want to make sure that I get that well rubbed in. I'm going to be mixing the pinks, so there's no real rhyme or reason to this. Just want to blend some colours in. So I'm going to speed this up and pop on a little bit of music, and you can watch me colour the mould. Okay, that'll do for now. I've got a little bit of loose powder in there, so I'm going to get rid of that, and then I can colour in the rest later on. But for now, I just want to mix up my resin. I'm still using Mould resin, and I've got 60 mils mixed up here. I'm going to add some white pigment paste to this. This is Supreme White. I haven't used this for a little while, so it's probably settled. I'm going to give it a quick stir around, and then I can add a small amount into my resin and make sure that that gets mixed in thoroughly. So that is enough. I'm going to scrape that off using my stick and then make sure that I get that thoroughly mixed into the resin. Let me put this in the center of my tray. Again, I'm going to use the G3 to help cure this. So I think this is probably opaque enough and mixed in enough. Just put some on the side of my cup. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Now, I'm hoping that this mould is level. It's actually meant for gum paste, so it doesn't have to be level. But if you're going to use it for resin, you really are going to want it to be flat and straight. It isn't very deep either, so I'm going to try to pour this in. Those stems are very narrow, so I think I'm going to have to use the stick to help distribute this into the mould. Try and spread this out pretty gently. I don't want to be scraping that mica off. Let me get a smaller silicone stick. I think I've probably already overfilled this. I'm just going to scrape that resin into the places that I want it to be. It hasn't taken very much at all. So I think I've probably mixed up way more than I'm going to need. Right, I'm going to carry on filling up these, and I will pop a little bit more music on, and I'll be back when these are cured and I'm ready to demold them. those filled up. I do have quite a lot of resin left over, so I'm going to carry on. I'm going to colour some of the other pieces, fill them up as many as I can, and then I'll be back once these are all ready to demould. These are all cured now, and I've let them thoroughly cool down. I can try and take them out the mould. The mould itself is really bendy, so I'm just going to try and bend that away. I've got quite a lot of overspill, so I'm going to probably have to deal with that afterwards. But let's see if I can just get this out, and if I've managed to get resin in all of those little stems. So I'm kind of peeling the mould away from the resin, trying to keep that flat. Oh, that's nice and clean. So yes, that's lovely. Yeah, I've got quite a lot of areas that are filled in with a little bit of overspill, but it is very thin. Most of it I can probably crack away with my fingers anyway. But I'm happy with that. So let me pop this in place. And this is the kind of look that I'm going for. I think that's going to be really pretty. So as you can see, I managed to fill in quite a few of the other ones. So let me demould them. Now these are joined by very thin stems, so if I can try and get this out without breaking them, that'll be a miracle. Pop, yeah, there we go. That's really pretty. I'm loving the subtle colours. It is exactly what I wanted. So I'm just going to carry on demoulding these and then see what I get. Very nice. I'm probably going to put that there. That looks better, and there is enough room for me to stick that down. I just need a little bit of support. The plan is to use the flowers themselves as bridges so that I can hold these rings in place. I'm just going to move them over to one side so I've got a little bit more space to carry on demoulding these. That's just, yeah, I'm going to put it there, but I'll pop that down here for a minute. Let's get some of the rest out and have a look. That is very pretty. There is still a lot of overspill around them. I'll trim this off while they're still nice and soft. It is very thin. I'll carry on getting these out first. That's really pretty too. And if you can see that I've got this on a plastic bag, this mould is very squidgy and it's the type that sucks the life out of your mat. So that's why I've got it on a bag. Now this one, I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough resin for that, so I didn't colour that. I just threw the resin in at the last minute, but I can deal with that in a minute. I'll colour that with some alcohol pens or something. All right, the last one. Oh, that's really pretty. I'm loving the shapes of these. They look amazing. They've taken the colour really nicely. So now I just have to figure out how I want to arrange these. Just making sure that they will bridge both of the rings, and then I can glue everything in place and it'll be one solid shape. I think that looks gorgeous. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. So now that I've got everything that I need, I'm going to clean up all of the excess resin that is around the flowers, and I need to add a little bit of colour to this, and then I can glue everything together. The really small areas around the stems and some of the flowers meant that I didn't get the neatest pour. So I've got quite a lot of overspill to deal with. Most of it's very thin film and I can easily remove that with a craft knife. Just running that along the edge of the stems and around the flowers, and that film is easily removed. But there are some areas that are a little bit thicker. I've laid the piece flat on the table and then I'm using the very tip of the knife to poke holes around the inside of the shape. Once I've got enough of the perforations, it's easy enough to pop the least part of it out, and then I can slide the knife up around the inside and remove that bit. Anything that is stubborn and doesn't want to come out, I can get a very small nail file in there and I can sand that back until I get back to the original shape. Alright, I finished cleaning this up, and as you can see it's looking really nice. I've got rid of all of the pieces in the middle, apart from the bottom here. I've decided to leave that intact because it makes it a little bit more solid. As you can see, this is still pretty bendy and floppy. And now I need to colour in this other piece so that I can use it. I'm using some alcohol markers. I'm just going to colour in the leaves. I'm using two different greens, trying to get it roughly the same colours as I've already used. They're not going to be exact. And then I want to deepen the pink as well because I didn't add quite so much for that. So I'm just going to run that around on the inside of the petals. And I'm not being neat about it. It does look pretty scruffy and messy, but that's okay because I'm going to grab a little brush and some isopropyl alcohol. I'll spray a blob onto my table, and then I can pick that up with a brush, and then I can blend that out in the middle of the rose and get a really nice distribution of colour around the middle. It just smooths everything out and makes it look a lot neater. Alright, I'm just going to let that alcohol dry before I start to stick everything together. Alright, these rings are nice and solid now, so I can start to build my wreath. I'm going to put them on top of an acrylic sheet so that I can move this around. And this is just the sheet from my UV resin lamp. Okay, so got those in place. Let me put them under the camera so you can see. Alright, that's looking pretty good. They're centered. I'm going to set this hole off to the side because I only need one to hang it up, and I'm hoping that I can use this flower to hide it. So let me just check that that's not centered at the moment. So let me get that ring centered first because I do want it to be even all the way round. That's okay, I think. And then, yeah, I can still get this hidden behind part of the flower. Alright, so I'm going to be using some glue to stick these down. I'm using B7000. Because the rings are solid and the flowers are too, I'm not going to be able to get any UV bonding resin under there. Well, I will, but I wouldn't be able to get the light under there to cure it. So I think this is the safest way to glue everything together. So I'm just going to keep putting some on the rings and some on the back of the pieces. If I offer it up, I can see roughly where I need to put the glue. If I end up with any glue that is sticking out on the back that isn't behind the ring or anything like that, then I can clean that off later, but it will be behind the back anyway, so you're not going to see it. So make sure that I get enough glue on there, and the flowers are what are going to hold that center ring in position. So just make sure that they are both overlapping and are well supported. There we go, that's looking pretty good. That hole is covered up. I've got a little bit of glue down here that is sticking out. I haven't got it covered with anything, so I'm just going to clean that off with a cotton bud before it sets. This does take about 45 minutes to an hour to set, and then it carries on curing over time. Right, that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to have those flowers over there, and these roses I need to build up over here. So I'm going to start with this one. And again, that is going to bridge both the outer and the center piece. So let me try and get my arrangement, because I can't remember what I did before. Should have taken a photo of it really, or I could look back over the videos, but I'm just going to wing it. Alright, I know that I want this one over here. So I think I'm going to put it that way, and that should happily stick there. So let me put a blob of glue. There we go, and then I can balance that. So the ring should be wide enough to hold that in place, and I've just got it propped next to that stem. It's overlapping it a little bit actually, so I just want to make sure that it isn't overlapping, otherwise that's going to be at an angle. Alright, I think that's okay. That looks really lovely. Alright, before I glue any of the other ones, I just want to make sure that I get my arrangement the way I want, because I don't remember how I had it before. So I'm just going to lay these out and try and figure out how I want that to be. As I say, I want to make sure everything is bridging both of those rings, and I figure out where to put the leaves. Now they broke, but that's okay because that means I can put them in multiple places, spread them out a little bit. I think I'm going to change that way round. Do I want that on top? No, I don't want it on top. And again, I don't really want it underneath. I don't want it to overlap, so I'll have to sort that out because I don't want any kind of an angle. I want them to have full contact with the rings and lay nice and flat. So I've just broken another leaf off, but I think that is looking good. Yep, I'm happy with that. All right, so now I can start gluing them. I think it's best actually if I start at the bottom and work my way up. So I'm going to glue the big rows first. Put some blobs of glue on the rings and then make sure that that is laid flat. Just move these leaves out of the way, and then I can have that poking out or looking like it's poking out of the rows. There we go, just tuck that in. Again, make sure that it's tucked up close but not actually underneath. Alright, and then this one can come out from here. Okay, well I think you're getting the idea. I'll speed this up a little bit and glue everything on so that you don't get bored. Broke off another leaf, so I'm just going to tuck that last one in there, and I think that finishes everything off. So I do have a little bit of an overlap, but I've put a lot of glue in there, and hopefully once this is set I can add some ribbon. This has been curing for a couple of hours now, so it is set. It will continue to cure, but I'm going to flip this over because I don't want to rely on the glue being the only thing that holds everything together. So I'm going to use some UV bonding resin on the back, and I'm going to put it where it will be hidden on the back of the flowers but right up against the edges of the rings. So I'm going to put a blob down, make sure that it is in contact with the flower and the ring, and then I'll use the torch that comes in the kit to cure it. About 10-15 seconds, and then I'll pop it under the lamp once I've done everything, just to give it a final blast and make sure that it's completely cured. So I'm going to do it both on the inner and the outer ring. So I'm going to do that at several points around the piece and try and get every individual flower if I can. And that should ensure that this piece is really strong and long lasting and nothing should come apart in the future. So the last thing to do is to cut a little bit of ribbon so that I can poke that through the top to hang it up. I'm going to double my ribbon over. I've cut quite a long length. I can always adjust that afterwards. So I've looped it over, and now I'm going to push two tails through the hole in the top. So I've just screwed them up. I'm going to poke those in the hole, and then I'll use a dotting tool to push that through. And then once the tails are through the back, I'm going to even everything out and then pass the tails through the loop that is in the front. And then I will pull that almost closed. It's just a little bit twisted. Let me untwist that. So I'm not going to pull it completely tight at the moment because I do want to add a bow on the front. I've got another coordinating ribbon, so I'm going to cut that, and then I will pass that through the back of that loop. So I'm going behind the double strand of that front loop. So I'll thread it through, and then I'm going to tie a knot, and this is where I'm going to start to tie my bow. So I'm just going to tie that knot. I can snug that up now by pulling on the tails. There you go. And now I can knot that other bow, the yellow one. And it's just a straightforward bow that I need to tie now. So I need to just wrap that round and then finesse it until I get the shape that I want. So I'm just going to keep pulling the loops and the tails until I get the shape that I want. And it looks okay. Almost there. That's not too bad. Right, and now I've got my hanger. And that's pretty much it. That's all I need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get some photographs to show you. But I really hope that you've liked this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't. It is free to you. You'll help my channel and you'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.